What is up, YouTube? JankyYGO here. My name is Michael, and today we have a bunch of new cards to talk about, including pendulum support, just generic pendulum support that is going to be very, very helpful for all pendulum decks. Cards that are very helpful for the Doremi archetype. Cards that are helpful for a new Cyberse one, and then on top of that, we have new Gusto support. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So this one is going to be mainly for certain pendulum decks, but I do think that it's going to be better in Doremichords and Pendulum Magicians, because they both have ways to get from the face-up extra deck to the hand pretty easily, and that is Pendulum Treasure. So, Pendulum Treasure is a normal spell card that you can only activate one of it per turn. You add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your face-up extra deck. So, that's a pretty powerful effect. It's basically a search card, and if this came out when Pendulums were basically like the best decks, you would be able to it would just be a generic search card for Pendulums, and they already have a lot of, like, you get this, and you get that, and you get this. So, overall, I think this card is pretty good. Next up, we're gonna move on, though, pretty fast. We have a lot of cards to talk about, but yeah, I do like this card a lot. Next up is the Cyberse one, which is Antagonistic Intelligence Messiah. So, it's a level 8 Cyberse Pendulum effect monster. 2500 attack, 3000 defense with a pendulum scale of 0. Its pendulum effect is any non-monster card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Monster effect is you can reveal this card in your hand and one other pendulum monster from your hand, or one card from your pendulum zone to the face-up extra deck. And if you do, you special summon it. Okay, it's a way to special summon itself. If another monster is normal or special summon while this is in the monster zone, you can activate this effect. Send that monster to the graveyard during the end phase of this turn. So its first effect is a hard one's return. Its second effect is not. The idea is that you summon this in, like, defense position, because it has a lot of defense, and then when your opponent starts spamming the board, you can keep, you can make sure that, you know, if they don't OTK you, they lose their board. So that's pretty cool. It's a very interesting card. I do like its pendulum effect a lot, even though, banishing monsters is more relevant than spells and traps more times than not, but there are still times when you would like to banish all the cards, including spells and traps, over it, because a lot of things have graveyard effects and stuff like that nowadays. So yeah, overall, not a bad card. It's kind of cool. It's a really cool that it has a pendulum scale of 0 as well. Next up, we have our generic pendulum support that's also Doremi support. It's going to be... So, I read this card and I went, this is like the new Electromite. Not in terms of... because it's not as broken as Electromite, but it is very important for pendulum-based decks. So, granted Doremichord, Usia. It's a Link 2 Light Fairy with 1900 attack, and its arrows are bottom left and bottom right. Its materials are 2 pendulum monsters, so it's generic for pendulum-based decks, because pendulum-based decks just use pendulums. Anyway, first effect. You can use this card's first and second effect. Hard one's return. During your main phase, you can add one pendulum monster from your hand to your face-up extra deck, and if you do, add one face-up pendulum monster from your extra deck with an odd pendulum scale, and if the first monster had an even scale, or with an even scale, if the monster you put had an odd scale. So the whole idea is you get the scale you need. Its second effect mainly works for Doremichords. When you pendulum summon a Doremichord monster, you can target one of them at a Doremichord pendulum monster with a level equal to the targeted pendulum monster's scale from your deck to your hand. So it's another way to search for the deck, and this card also makes the deck a lot more powerful. Again, this deck keeps getting more and more cards that make it have more and more potential. Overall, though, I think that what makes this card mainly important is that the two materials are the fact that it is a pendulum. It requires any two pendulum monsters, so any pendulum deck can make it. And the first effect works with all pendulum-based decks. So yeah, if you like lose your scales, maybe you can Wavering Eyes and then like summon this in some other way, and then you get your other scales to link summon. That's basically what this card is trying to do. For your generic pendulum decks, for Doremichords, their whole gimmick is replacing odds and evens in the scales. So yeah, very, very good card, and probably going to be very important moving on. Next up is we have a bunch of Gustos coming out in Dawn of Majesty. Gustos were a deck that came out in Hidden Arsenal, and all they did was basically float, 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 float. So their win condition was they summoned out the Synchro monster, where your opponent takes all battle damage you would from them. And the idea is that you attack into them. Once you summon that Synchro monster, they had a bunch of floaters in the deck that would, if they're destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you special summon one. So the idea was you would get that out, you would like summon out one of your floaters, attack, your opponent takes the damage, float into another one, attack, your opponent takes the damage, and that's how the deck wins. And they've got more support in a long time ago. Let's see what the new support is though. So the first card is Gusto Feather. Level 3 Winged Beast Tuner Effect Monster. 600 attack, 1000 defense. If a face-up Gusto monster is destroyed by battle or sent to the graveyard and this card is in your hand, you can special summon this card. If this is normal or special summon, you can send one Gusto monster from your deck to the graveyard, then special summon one Gusto monster from your hand. Okay, that's really good actually. Since the whole point of this deck is to float, 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 that works really well. And on top of that, Gustos don't actually have a lot of ways to summon their monsters. Their idea is to float and then eventually summon out what you need. The way that this card works really well with the deck too is they have one Gusto monster that if it's normal or special summon, you get a special summon a Gusto from your graveyard. So not only does that set up for the whole send one, right? Because you send one and then you special summon one from your hand. That can get you a level 6 Synchro pretty much immediately. But with Foolish Burial and then an E-Telly, you could also make a rank 6 because of in the old way the deck worked. And with this, it just kind of helps that because the deck itself doesn't have a lot of ways to summon its own boss monsters, and that was something that was like like a thing for Hidden Arsenal. Is that they struggled to summon some of the decks struggled to summon their own boss monsters for some reason. But yeah, so next up is overall good card for the deck though. Next up is a Synchro monster. Daigusto Raplamlica. Level 6 Wind Psychic Synchro effect. Its attack and defense are a mystery at the moment. They have not revealed them. It's a tuner, and then one or more non-tuner Gusto monsters. You can only special summon it once per turn. If this card is synchro summoned, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except once. Also special summon 2 Gustos monsters, one each from your hand and deck, but their effects are negated, and if you do immediately after this effect resolves, you synchro summon a Gusto monster using only those 2 monsters. Your opponent cannot target Gusto synchro monsters you control with card effects. This card is great because what this card does is once you make a level 6, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Once you make your level 6 synchro, right? Once you're able to make one, you synchro into this, then you use its effect to summon out 2 more level 3s to synchro summon into the one that can't be destroyed by battle. That way you have ones that say, so your Gusto monsters can't be targeted or destroyed by battle, or at least your synchros can't. But, yeah, I think this card is great, and it's definitely one of the better, it's definitely like the starter Gusto synchro. And it's a good thing they said that you can only special summon it once per turn, because otherwise you just keep making these. You make this, then you make it again, then you make it again, and then you would make the one that says, your opponent takes all the battle damage and all that. That would be like an OTK in of itself with basically like no effort and they're trying to avoid that. So yeah, I think this card is great because of what it does. Gustos also have other synchros, but their level 6 one is their old level 6 one is the one that was like the most relevant. And that's the only one I remember off the top of my head. Okay, so last but not least, maybe, is Gusto Tailwind. It's an equip spell. Equip only to a Gusto monster. Its second and third effects are hard once per turn. The equipped monster cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. Okay. This works really well with the first synchro, the synchro's second effect. Your opponent can't target other Gusto synchro monsters. So it makes that one that can't be destroyed by battle. And the other one says you can't target other ones. So it makes it so you can make one that's almost invulnerable. You have to have non-targeting, non-destruction removal to get rid of it, which is pretty good. So its second effect. During your main phase, you can activate one of the following effects based on the monster's level/rank. 4 or lower, special summon a Gusto monster with a different type from your deck. That is amazing. 5 or higher, special summon one level 1 tuner from your deck. What? Hold up. That doesn't say Gusto tuner. It just says a level 1 tuner. Okay, hold up. Hold the fuck up. I mean, I know this is an equip spell, and equip spells aren't exactly the best, but hold the fuck up. That's broken. Special summoning a tuner from your deck, if it's not restricted, it's broken. Just flat out, that's broken. We've seen Electromite be used to like do all these insane loops. We've seen anytime a thing summons something from the deck, if it's not restricted to a certain thing, it usually ends up being broken. So yes, it's restricted to a level 1 tuner, but if they ever ban JankyYGO and I said Electromite earlier, but if they ever ban JankyYGO, then Gustos would probably be abusing Global and Jet Synchron. So, damn, that's pretty That's pretty good. Like, that's just really good. Dang it. Wow. Anyway, it's third effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one wind monster. Add one Gusto spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. That's also pretty good. It can add another copy of itself. That's pretty nutty that it just like, oh, hey, you got rid of my tailwind and everything. Whoop. Get another one. Um, Also worth mentioning, on the third effect, it doesn't say if it's in your graveyard except for when it was sent there. So what that means is that you can use Foolish Burial Goods for this. Discard one of your like level 3 tuner wins, like the one that we saw earlier, and then add a Gusto, add another copy of this, and then there's a level 3 that if it's normal or special summon, you could special summon a Wind Tuner, I think. It's a Gusto monster basically that's a level 3 psychic. So you could summon out that and then go from there. This card seems pretty damn good overall, and is gonna make the deck a little bit more powerful. Because there are ways to, search it, since it can search itself, unless that's a translation error. But anyway, that is gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoyed the new cards. Tell me what your favorite new card is down in the comment section below. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday. And if you want to send me any cool deck profiles or replays, feel free to do so and send them to JankyYGO@gmail.com. And of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.